Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next installment of our preseason power rankings, preseason preview series. Today, we're going over the Baltimore Ravens, a team. I don't know where this ranking is relative to the consensus. I really don't know where the consensus is. Is it around here?
I don't know. I don't know either because there's a lot of reason to believe this team is going to be really good, but there's also a lot of reasons to believe that this team might just take a step back.
Yeah.
So it's
There's no
kind of
world where
weird.
they're bad. No
Yes,
world where they're
absolutely.
bad.
No world where they're bad.
But I feel like last year they probably would have been ranked around fifth, fourth in the league. There was, of course, points last year where they looked like the best team in the league, right? Uh, but I don't know how you feel, but I'm willing to say they had. I wouldn't say one of the worst off seasons because I don't think in terms of their process, I don't think it was poor. Like it isn't really their fault, but they did lose the most out of
They
any
lost.
team
They
in the
lost a
NFL.
lot, and
Yeah,
again, not their fault. It wasn't
yeah.
because the organization was making bad decisions. They just happened to lose a lot because that's what happens to really good
And in their
organizations.
defense, you look at this roster. I think, I don't know how you feel, but I think they planned pretty well to account for what they lost.
I think they've done a relatively good job. It's
Yes.
just more we have to. There are unknowns here that we have to
Yeah,
see play out.
exactly. And we try not to project too much when we do our rankings. Of course, we project a little bit. If we're 100% positive that someone's good, like AR, right? When we were talking about the Colts, we weren't talking about that like it was a question mark because we knew for an absolute fact that you know it would work, right? We knew for an absolute fact that AR would be a good quarterback because of what we saw. Even though it might have seemed like projection to other people, we knew for a fact. And with this, I feel like there's some spots where we know for a fact that the guy will be good. And I think there's other spots where we feel pretty good about a player coming in and replacing someone and looking good, but we're not positive. We haven't seen some of these guys in the NFL too much yet.
Yep.
And for example, like their defensive coordinator, right? They lost the best defensive coordinator in football.
Yep.
Do we feel pretty confident about the guy who's stepping up in place of him? Yeah. Yeah, we do. But we're not going to project him to do the same exact job and expect no drop off from this defense. That's just not fair, right? So, with how much they lost during the season, 9 is a pretty damn good ranking, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I just
Absolutely.
want to make that clear. Now, we hop into this culture, and we're going to hit on something that I already kind of did. It's built a lot on this idea of next man up, right?
Yep.
When someone goes down, right? Mark Andrews goes down, Isaiah Likely, go in there,
Step up.
do his job, right? You see J.K. Dobbins go down, okay, Gus Edwards, go in there, do his job, right? You see Gus Edwards go down, okay, Keaton Mitchell, do his job, right? Like, that's what this is, right? And you could see there are a lot of guys who are going to be doing that this year, right? Because they lost some players. Kyle Van Noy, you know, gone. Jadeveon Clowney, gone, right?
Javen Clowney gone. Well, Kyle Van Noy's still there.
Kyle Van Noy's still there. Sorry. Kyle Van
Javen
Noy's still
Clowney.
there. Obviously, Patrick Queen is who's gone, right? Patrick Queen's
Yes.
gone. Okay, Trenton Simpson, go in there, right?
Yep.
Jadeveon Clowney, you're gone. Okay, Ojabo, take
And
that step.
that
Right.
really speaks to their draft philosophy too.
Yes.
They draft for high value positions, and they draft players that won't play immediately because they know they're going to lose people in free agency or people are going to move on, and they prepare for the future, and that's what they've done these last two drafts, and that's what's happening right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, this team is built off of that philosophy. Even I guess kinda Lamar was like that, right? He wasn't drafted to be a day one guy. He came in
Yeah.
for Joe Flacco, right?
Yep.
Joe Flacco was the starter, right? This team plays a lot of tough football. It's a very old school type of traditional football team in terms of the philosophy it's built with, right?
Yeah.
Next man up, tough football, ground and pound. Like Harbaugh was a special teams guy before he was a head coach. He's here because of what he does as a culture guy, and players
He's
love him.
one of
Players
the
love
best
him.
culture guys in the NFL.
Yeah.
Man.
And that's why, he's been in the NFL for so long. That's why the Ravens have been so good for so long, because Harbaugh consistently takes them above and beyond because of what he does, bringing the team together, unifying them to the one goal of winning football games. It's about establishing a winning culture. They've had a winning culture for a while now. When you're this young of an organization, because compared to the other NFL organizations, they're a younger organization, and you have some rings, you have some
Not
Lombardis
only
there.
rings, but it's so many successful seasons under your
Yes,
belt.
exactly. You know, there's some teams that have been around for twice as long, even longer, that don't have a single Lombardi, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they're out there with two, and some of the greatest players in the history of the sport played on, the purple, right? They have a history of success, right? And Harbaugh has been a reason why. He's been the consistent variable. From that team that won a Super Bowl, back in 2011 against the 49ers, who's the one guy that's still there, right? John Harbaugh.
Mr. Harbaugh.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what it is. He's someone that's been there, done that, and he knows how to build a team that is that caliber.
So let's move into this offense and talk about offense coordinator Todd Monken. Comes in as a new offensive coordinator for the team last year, and I thought he did a pretty damn good job. And specifically, probably the best Lamar's looked as a passer in his entire career under Todd Monken last season. What do you think about what he brings to this offense?
Yeah, I look at it. Monken interests me a lot. He probably runs one of the most interesting and unique offenses
Very
because we know how Roman ran this offense, right? It was very smash mouth football. A lot of pistol, some stuff even, just trying to get the running back, the running start, right? And it was gap scheme, it was QB run, and the passing game was kind of on the afterburners, right? In terms of running the ball, they run similar stuff, right? It's still gap scheme, right? They will run out of shotgun gap scheme, which is difficult, but they do it, and they're fine at it. They don't run the heavy personnel, though. Not as often, at least. And
but
you're getting more out of the passing game. Exactly.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say, you're getting more out of the passing game. And I really love how he does, he's in these, spread sets when he wants to pass the ball. There's a lot of quick RPO stuff in there.
Yeah.
I thought he did a good job, and Lamar's pretty damn good at it. Before the season, you're like, Lamar hasn't really run this before, at least not with Greg Roman. How's he going to do it? And he did just fine. He was fantastic in this offense.
Yeah, exactly. His passing concepts that he had to execute in his first MVP season, they were so different. They were so different. They were so simplistic. Now there's a lot more little variables, and now we're seeing Lamar establish himself as more of like a pocket guy. Okay? And he could still make plays on the run. He still absolutely can. And he'll scramble and make a big play, but now that's kind of the second option. Meanwhile, with Roman, that really wasn't the case, right? It's really interesting.
So let's just hop right into Lamar Jackson. And, this guy, some people are calling it, this is the worst MVP we've seen. And so Lamar Jackson this team lived and died by Lamar Jackson, as they do every year, but especially last year. Yeah. Lamar Jackson was incredible last year. I'd argue it was the best season of his career. On tape. I'm not saying statistically because we know it's not. But on tape, that was the best I've seen Lamar Jackson play. And that's saying a lot because Lamar Jackson's been a top quarterback in this league for quite a while now. As a passer, he really evolved into, as you said, being more of a pocket guy, trying to pass first rather than run first. I lost my train of thought. You go ahead.
I gotta say, with Lamar, right, I've always looked at him, the thing that always gave me optimism, the thing I think he does as a passer that is so well, his release is so quick, man. He has an arm. He does, right?
It's one of the best arms in football.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And he uses it less to get deep shots down the field and more to release sidearmed and release it quick, man. He releases it quick. And now that we have him throwing over the middle more and executing more of these timing-based concepts, his eye manipulation is pretty on point, too. He does a good job. He does a good job dissecting teams from the pocket. And, of course, he'll run, make big plays that way, without a doubt. He's tremendous as a runner. But what he is now doing as a pocket passer, like you just said, that is the big step in his game that made this maybe the best season of his career.
I argued last season that there was not a more, again, people were mad he won the MVP. I would argue there was not a player that changed this team more than Lamar Jackson in the sense that when Lamar Jackson is on the field, you have to play an entirely different style of defense. You completely have to change how you call your defense, how you as a pass rusher rush the quarterback, how you as a linebacker drop into coverage. You have to play defense differently when Lamar Jackson is right there playing quarterback. And that is invaluable, and it's invaluable because Lamar Jackson is a damn good quarterback who's accurate, can read the field, make plays, and it helps. Like, just think about it like this: you have sometimes teams don't even try rushing him; they're just kind of like, we're gonna rush, but we're playing contain. And then Lamar's good enough passer to sit in the pocket and take advantage of that and just throw from the pocket. He's got fantastic pocket presence. He's one of the three best quarterbacks in football, in my opinion.
Listen, it's really tough to say that he isn't at least in that top tier, right? Like, you want to go as far to say he's the second best quarterback in the league. I can't give you too much of a disagreement. Like I
I'm
can't.
not going to argue heavily
Right?
with you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, really good quarterback. But if there is a flaw with his game, it's his availability, right? Because of the style of ball he plays, injury is a very real concern. And you just said it, when he's on the field. What about when he isn't? Well, I want to say the backup quarterback situation isn't ideal. Like, listen, Josh Johnson, he's been around football for a while now, around pro football for a while now. Still, I would much rather Josh Johnson's your third option, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't really like what they got going on in that quarterback room. Devin Leary, they drafted. I don't know, man. I wish they kept Huntley, and Huntley wasn't a stud or anything, but Huntley did a fine
Huntley
job.
made the Pro Bowl.
Huntley made a Pro Bowl. Like Huntley as a backup quarterback in this scheme.
Great. Like, it's a great fit.
Like he did enough, right? He did enough. I don't know if I think Josh Johnson will do enough. And I definitely don't think Devin Leary will do enough. Year one,
Well,
at least.
at least for Lamar Jackson, LaFleur is gone and out of the way. He already had he gets the flu every year. He has the immune system of a fly. He gets the flu every single season, and it usually comes later in the season and happened during training camp. So maybe he's more available this year because LaFleur is out of the way.
Yep.
But we'll have to see. You really hope he can stay healthy because he's that important to this offense, as every quarterback is, but even more so with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. And, I mean, that reflects when we look at this receiver core. Listen, I'm not going to say I dislike it, but it's the type of receiver core that needs to be elevated by QB play.
I'm gonna say I dislike it. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's very good.
That it just hurts hearing you say that because, like, I'm going to be the optimist here, which is new. Normally it's you being the optimist and me being the one that's, the big hater. But so let's start. Zay Flowers. This is a receiver I love. I love Zay Flowers. He is yet to really emerge as like this stud, but I think he can be. I think he gets restricted a little bit by volume because they are a run-first team. Even though they run these 11 personnel sets, they are a run-first team. But Zay Flowers, man, what he can do as a vertical threat, I like him as a route runner. And, man, you want to talk about being able to play the ball in the air, this guy could do that. Like, I'm a big Zay Flowers guy. His speed, after-catch playmaking ability, great player. Great player that you could use in so many unique ways. I want to see them incorporate him more in motion. Right? I think that's the big thing here.
Agree.
Right? You start using him in motion and, threatening teams in that way. Oh, my Lord, getting press coverage away from him. He becomes really dynamic then and then do a little bit of the gadget Devo stuff. He could do that, and he'll do it just fine. Right? I love Zay Flowers.
And then the only other bright spot or potential bright spot to me is Rashad Bateman. Because I really liked Rashad Bateman coming out of his draft. And that was a loaded draft class. He still ended up as like my, fourth-ranked receiver, but that's because Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, and Jamar Chase happened to be ahead of him, who are all bona fide stars in this league, right? And Rashad Bateman, I think, had that same kind of potential, but for one, injuries have kept him off the field, and for two, he hasn't exactly been great when he's been on the field.
I also think his usage hasn't been correct, right?
Right.
They use him kind of just as like there's a vertical, field stretcher, and that's not. Listen, great 50-50 ball guy who you throw the ball up to him, he could catch it, but he's a good route runner. Use that. He's a
Yes, he
nuanced
is.
route runner.
Fantastic route
Use
runner,
it,
yeah.
right? Maybe even put the guy in the slot, right? Let him do some work there. I think that would be a very good idea. I want to see them take advantage of his route running prowess more because that was what I really liked about him coming out of college, along with his contested catching ability.
Me as well. And with Rashad Bateman, it seems like the Ravens are still really confident in him. The way they talk about him at training camp, it seems like they're like, yeah, Rashad Bateman's our guy. Like, this is what we're doing with him.
The
And it's
annoying
like,
thing
okay,
is that sounds like it happens every year. So I don't know
exactly.
if I can believe it. I want to believe it because I want to be
Right.
right about Rashad Bateman because I
Me
was
too.
big
Me
on
too.
Rashad Bateman too. But it doesn't. I don't know. I think the dream might be dead, but I also think it's partially because of his utilization, like I said.
And then for me, that's where I here one more. I like Russell Gage as the slot receiver. As he's here, he can do some things. That's it. I'm not a fan of anybody else in this room.
I'm not going to act like I like Aguilar. I'm not.
No.
I think Tylan Wallace can go out there, do a little bit.
He can do a bit. I'm not gonna. He doesn't. I mean, sure, he can do a bit. I just don't think he will.
I also look at it. This was not a name I liked going into the draft, but when he got drafted, it raised my fancy a little bit. Tez Walker on the Ravens with Lamar, I think that could work well. Because I just mentioned how I think Rashad Bateman would be best fit as a slot receiver. Well, you need someone to play that vertical stretch to the field role. You could have Zay Flowers do that, but I think that's kind of limiting Zay Flowers and his skill set. Tez Walker is there to do that. Like, that is his game, right? You have him as that vertical field stretcher. Even if he's not getting the ball a lot, he's threatening teams deep, right? And Lamar could throw a heck of a deep ball. I could see Tez Walker having some nice plays throughout the season. Again, I didn't really like Tez Walker as a prospect.
That's my thing with him. I did not like Tez Walker much at all as a prospect.
I didn't, but you can't lie and say that he can't fit that role, right?
No, yeah, absolutely.
I think there is a vision there. And then a name I find interesting, once again, Malik Cunningham switched to wide receiver. This guy played quarterback, but you know how the commentary around Lamar was he's just a running back or a wide receiver, he should switch positions. Malik Cunningham is like that if it were true.
Yeah.
Right? But he's still a good runner, right? Like, let's take advantage. You have an athlete here. You have an athlete. Take advantage. Get him some of the Deebo Samuel, scheme to open stuff, Get him a screen pass, and I want to see what he could do there.
I am a little surprised considering the quarterback situation, or the backup quarterback situation, I should say, that they at least aren't trying a more backup quarterback. But
I think it's because, right, why did they get rid of Huntley, right? Why did they let the guy walk? Well, because this isn't Roman's offense. They want someone who could dissect teams from the pocket, right? I think that's why they were fine going with a Devin Leary, right?
Right.
Because that's their first priority. Do they want the rushing ability? Absolutely, but I don't think they need it like they used to in the past. And that, I think, is part of the reason that they were fine moving Cunningham to wide receiver. But you said it, right? You only have faith in those first two guys, really just that one, right? In Zay Flowers. And then maybe Rashad Bateman, we'll see. And that raises a question to me, right? Because we're about to get into this tight end room. Do you think base personnel, despite it being a spread offense, might be 12?
I think Isaiah likely has made it hard to not be 12. Personally, I think I think Isaiah likely has made it hard for them to not be in 12 personnel.
Mm-hmm. So is that what you're expecting here for them to base at it? Because they're going to run a lot. We know they're going to run a lot. Is that going to be their base?
It's hard for me to imagine Monken making that the base is the thing.
Well,
because he wasn't spreads. He likes being spread. Now, does that mean Isaiah likely maybe playing big slot?
So I'm thinking, maybe not likely as the big slot. I'm thinking about potentially Mark Andrews as that big slot guy, right? You're still able to run all those same spread concepts. It's just the personnel is different.
Yeah. And I think if they were to base out of 12, that's what it would be.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be traditional 2 tight ends
Yeah.
on the 2 Ys. You know what I mean? It'd be big slot and then traditional Y.
Mm-hmm. And then in the short yardage situations, then they have the ability to get a Ricard out there as a fullback, tight end, whatever. And then because they did a lot of Ricard at tight end, motion him into the backfield, or just keep him at tight end. They did that a lot. And Ricard, I guess we'll start with the tight end room, and I'll start with the fullback because why not?
Yeah.
Pat Ricard as a blocker, stud. I mean, this man weighs like 320. Like
they have put Pat Ricard along the defensive line. Like he has played defensive tackle.
He started as a defensive tackle. That was what he got drafted to do, and then they switched him to fullback.
So every so often you'll just see the annual Patrick Ricard on defensive tackle just randomly in a game.
Or the funny thing is, I thought you were going to say the annual Pat Ricard touchdown.
Oh, that too.
Because that's something once a year always happens. Last year, we got really lucky, us Ricard fans. We got him getting a one-handed catch in the end zone. Crazy. But yeah, no, I do not like Ricard because of what he does as, this utility guy, pass catcher. He weighs 320. That's not his game. He's there to plow guys. Plow guys out of the way. And it sucks they don't really use a fullback too much in Monken's offense. However, they kind of have made an exception.
They not only that, but they kind of line him up as a tight end a lot.
Yes,
too,
they do that a lot. It's a very common thing, and they motion him around. He's a good pass blocker too, and they really like to do him in those situations. But yeah, it just sucks. There's so many tight ends. He isn't going to see the field as much, but he still will have his usage, like I said, in short yardage. Then we get to Isaiah Likely. Last year, he really impressed as this big body target.
With Mark Andrews out for a bit, yeah, he was fantastic as more of a he did play some big slot, but yeah, playing more of the traditional Y tight end. Really underrated as a blocker, I thought. I thought which is a little surprising to me. I didn't think he was like that. I didn't really love his blocking in college, so it goes to show this Ravens team has done a good job teaching him and coaching him up in that regards. But yeah, where he shows out is as this big vertical pass catcher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and listen, that's what he brings you, right? He is a big play threat from the tight end position, while Mark Andrews is more of the get open short and consistently do it, reliable guy, right? And he's another guy that can win at the catch point, of course, but he's there more as like a separator a little bit, more of a feel for zone coverage guy, reliable target, more of the safety blanket for a Lamar Jackson, right? I think the 12 personnel vision, that is where I'm leaning, right?
I think
with
so,
Mark Andrews as the slot. Just because third wide receiver isn't overly strong, and last year with how Isaiah Likely played, you can't keep him off the field, right?
Yeah.
Then
you have Charlie Kolar here too, who's an all right third tight end to have. He's kind of going to be competing with Pat Ricard as to who's going to be lining up at tight end. You know what I mean? For that,
and they both do very similar stuff. They're both like big blockers, right? That's their game.
Exactly.
But I'm leaning Ricard. He's been doing it for a while, and he has that versatility as, able to go in the backfield. But Kolar is still going to be on the roster. He's going to contribute at times.
Then we move to this running back room.
Yeah.
And this was the big, exciting move of the offseason, signing Derrick Henry from Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Has there ever been a scarier running duo than Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry? I would argue not really.
I mean, Marcus Allen and Bo Jackson were pretty good, but I don't know.
I'm talking more running.
No, I know. I'm kidding. I'm saying, like, it is up there, right? Like, it is. It's a really good one. Because, again, you have to keep in mind, Lamar Jackson, the impact he has as a quarterback and how he threatens teams on the perimeter, even when he's handing the ball off, that was what led Mark Ingram in 2019, still a very old player. He was the lead back on a team that was known as the most potent rushing attack in football. And that's because of what Lamar Jackson could do. Now Derrick Henry is replacing Mark Ingram.
And that's an upgrade for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, objectively. Uh, and it's like, I think Derrick Henry, sadly, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Yet again, I'm the pessimist on this show. Mark, I almost said Mark Ingram. Derrick Henry is going to be on a pitch count until playoffs. He is. That is what I'm expecting. I don't expect him to go out there every play. Sorry, fantasy players, I don't recommend drafting the guy. Maybe you trade for him late season, buy low. Maybe it's one of those type of players. The talent is there for him to be a lead back, but I just think they have other running backs in this room. I think they're saving Derrick Henry for December, right?
And I think
they're
that makes a
saving him
lot
for
of
January.
sense. That's not saying Derrick Henry isn't going to get his work. There's
He
going to
will.
be
He will.
NFC North games against
Yeah.
the Pittsburgh Steelers where he runs the ball 25 times. Like, that's
Mhm.
going to happen this year, right? But, yeah, I can understand what you're saying. They want him healthy for the postseason. They want to be like, dude, we have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Let's run the ball. Let's get to December football and let's run the ball.
Because that's when they've been losing. The playoff games. That's what this is about, man. They're trying to change that playoff stigma. They don't care about regular season success because they tend to do that anyway. They're the Ravens, right? They care a lot about getting the postseason wins, right? And in order to do that, you got to have a fully energized Derrick Henry with very little wear and tear. And it really helps when you have, in my opinion, a nice group of guys behind him in Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell.
Yes.
Keaton Mitchell struggles to stay healthy. That is the big thing. When he is healthy, though, really nice scat back. His speed, his playmaking ability. He's a big play threat on any given play. So shifty. So shifty. And I like the vision, too, as an inside zone runner. Now, the thing is, they are a gap team, so, the scheme fit is a little bit off. But when they do run inside zone, very threatening player, or really any outside run play, he'll do damage. Justice Hill is, their hybrid guy.
Yeah, I was quite impressed with Justice Hill last year. Not saying he's some star or anything, but as a hybrid guy, really had, despite being a fast runner, has some power to him while also being good out of the backfield. Just a really solid running back to have in this room.
I completely agree, and I think this is gonna be the guy who leads their team in carries the first 10 weeks. I do. I think Derrick Henry's gonna have a role, but I really think they're gonna dial it back because the fact is, this running game is gonna be good no matter what. It is. It's the Ravens. You have Lamar Jackson threatening teams. It's gonna be a good run game no matter what. I don't think they need to rely on Henry too much early.
Right. I think it's hard to imagine them not doing it, though. I understand what you're saying. I think maybe that's the smart option, but these Ravens fans want to see Derrick Henry get the ball.
Yeah, and he's gonna. I'm not saying he's gonna get below 100 carries, right? But I'm expecting Justice Hill to kind of be their go-to guy, at least early in the season, right? Derrick Henry, I think you're gonna kind of. I mean, this was also kind of like how we talked about McCaffrey when he got traded, and see how that went. So I could be talking out of my ass right now. But if you're asking me what I would do, I think the running game is going to be good no matter what. I say you put Derrick Henry out there when you're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers and, it's a 7-point game in the fourth quarter. Maybe you give him a couple carries here and there. But really, I would be relying on Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell until it comes time to really get going. Right?
Yeah, again, I'm not saying I don't agree with you. I'm just saying it's
a bit unlikely.
It's a bit unlikely, but we'll see. I also want to mention they have Rasheen Ali. I liked his tape at Marshall. They drafted him as a rookie. And again, this running game is going to be good regardless, so don't be surprised if Rasheen Ali has a couple decent games here and there this next season.
Yeah. So then we move over to part of the reason I think the offense, rushing offense, is going to be so good no matter what. The O-line. I know they lost guys. Guys.
Yeah, but they've got some guys stepping up here that I'm excited about.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Let's start with left tackle. Left tackle's so interesting because it's something that's it's one of their best players, but it's also such a question mark because of Ronnie Stanley's health.
Just his health. Yeah. A little bit of some of that inconsistency at times.
Yeah.
Right? There are plays where there are drives where he single-handedly blows it up. Right? You will see that. However, there are plays that become touchdowns because this man wins his block and he wins it in dominant fashion. He's a true, like, any given play, huge impact lineman, right? Yeah. And there's not many of those, you know. Ronnie Stanley, he's a fun watch, man, because his highlights are sick. Yeah, his highlights are sick.
And I want to mention, again, not only the inconsistency, but he's had some injury concern.
Mm-hmm.
I don't not like Josh Jones behind him. I think he's got some ability in the way that the Ravens have been so good at coaching up offensive linemen. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in as a serviceable backup left tackle if Ronnie Stanley were to go down. I quite like Josh Jones in this offense.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Then I moved to the left guard spot. Andrew Voorhees.
I'm an Andrew Voorhees truther.
He was very good. Then he got injured. And then still benched the most out of any player in that draft class.
Yep. And it was, again, one of those picks of, for one, that got him in the 7th round, which, again, if Andrew Voorhees did not get hurt, that is a 2nd-round draft pick.
Yeah.
At the worst.
Yeah.
And they're like, cool, we're going to take this guy who's just sitting here, and we're going to wait a year because we have the opportunity to, because we had a guard already. Mm-hmm. And now he gets to come in fully healthy of an off season in an NFL training. I fully expect Andrew Voorhees to plow people.
Yeah, that's what he did. That's what he did in college, right? Heck of a puller, and in a gap scheme, oh, they'll love him. They'll love him. We want to talk about, they have a type. Their type is big, strong men, okay? That is their type. Gap scheme, normally that directly correlates, right? Andrew Voorhees is not an exception at all. Heck of a player here. Heck of a player.
Then we move to their center. Tyler Linderbaum, you want to talk about a heck of a player. Tyler Linderbaum is one of the best centers in football, man. Mm-hmm. He is so damn good. You get him not only in their gap scheme that they like to run, but on screens, you get him in space. He's running down the field and mauling people. Good in pass protection. One of the stars on this team.
Yes, absolutely. And now, it's interesting because I just said what their type is. He is the one, exception. He's closer to the average size for a center, maybe a little bit below average, honestly. But he makes up for that with speed, right? And he's probably the only lineman where they actually really care that much about it. They run a little bit of zone, and he's their best zone blocker by far, and he could run gap very well, too.
And they make up for maybe the lack of big men's size with Tyler Linderbaum and their right guard. With Daniel, I can't say the last name, Daniel
Falele.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if 6'8", 380 can play guard.
Yeah, I am shocked that they're even trying this.
I'm shocked he's the starting right guard on the depth chart.
Yeah, and listen, it's not really as much against the player as it is, like you just said, not even the 380, right?
Yeah.
The 6'8", right? Because it's all on the interior, it's all about holding your ground, right? You can't get pushed back as an interior guy. As a tackle, you can. As an interior guy, you can't. You have to overpower the person in front of you, or at least hold a stalemate. At least. And even that isn't ideal, but at least, right? When you are that tall, it's easy to get under your pads, and when you're the winner of the leverage battle is normally going to move the loser. I know Falele weighs so much, and he could kind of overcome it, but can he?
But Falele's play strength, even last year on tape, wasn't anything super. He wasn't mauling people around at right tackle.
Yeah.
I thought he was moving people because he's so big, but it wasn't anything crazy.
Yeah, and now he's playing against bigger guys.
And then you get to him in pass protection, and he was bad last year, and he's bad at right guard. At least he was in preseason in pass protection.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think some of his issues as a pass protector get fixed by moving him to the interior. But again, now he just gets bull rushed more.
Yes.
I don't see how this works. The only thing that gives me confidence is this is the Ravens.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't work, you're not sitting here like, oh, we're screwed at right guard. Ben Cleveland could play guard. Ben Cleveland could play guard for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's exactly it. That's why I don't get why Falele is listed as the starter. Because Ben Cleveland is a far better player.
Yes.
Right. Who also does the big man move people stuff, It really shocks me. But hey, again, I have faith in this coaching staff in terms of offensive linemen. So, yeah.
And then we get to their right tackle, rookie Roger Rosengarten. I quite liked Rosengarten's tape at Washington. I remember watching Fontenot and being like, oh, this guy across from him pleasantly is surprising me.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's good. I struggle. I wonder how he fits into the scheme because I don't think he's that much of a people mover. I think he's much more of a pass protector. But maybe that's what they're looking for out of their tackle with Lamar.
Yeah, it could be very similar to Linderbaum, where it's like he's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
Now, I was fine with Rosengarten. I didn't see him as a day one starting type of guy. Not because I thought he was raw. I just didn't think he was quite a high enough caliber player. I could see Patrick Mikarai starting, and I think that would be closer to, that big man move people type of thing. But we'll see. I think no matter what, this offensive line is going to be fine because the Ravens always are fine there.
Yes, it always ends up being the case.
Mm-hmm. Worst case scenario, throw Ricard at right tackle, and then you're fine.
And he'd probably be the best right tackle they had. It's just he's good at everything.
Even catching, right? The one hand catch once again.
One hand.
Yep.
Just an athlete like that.
But yeah, no, this is a fun one, right? This is definitely a fun one. Now, offensive player of the year and offensive rookie of the year. What do you have?
Offensive player of the year, it's pretty easy for me. It's Lamar Jackson. I feel like it's hard not to. Yeah. You could say Derrick Henry here, but it depends. But like you
I
don't even.
I don't think. Listen, he probably leads the team in carries going into Week 10, but I think it'll be closer than people think. Right. I think they are going to put him on a split. Right. For me, offensive player of the year, same exact thing. Lamar, come on. And then offensive rookie of the year.
I'm gonna go with Rosengarten.
I don't know how long he starts. There's a part of me that wants to go Tez. There is. Not because I think Tez will be overly dynamic, but because I think he will have an impact. I think I am going to go Tez. Devon Tez. And again, it's not because I love the player. I love the fit, though. Do you have your X Factor or 12th man here?
I have my 12th man here.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, no, because if we're going to... Well, yeah, I do still, even if we are basing out of 12 personnel. Pat Ricard. My 12th man, best.
Yeah, that's a very, very fair one. The only thing is, I really like a lot of the 12. I like a lot of their pieces on defense that might be rotating.
Totally.
So it's hard for me to say a 12th man. Although Keaton Mitchell is someone I want to mention.
Yeah, and then my X factor is Rashad Bateman.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, Rashad Bateman can live up to that draft type that he had, that draft type that you and me gave him. Suddenly, this receiving core, while still not that good, has two bona fide stars, in my opinion. And that is enough to work with Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews and, Isaiah Likely.
With X Factor, there's a lot of places my brain go. There's a lot here. And I think both my X Factor and 12th man are going to be defensive. But, man, I really am thinking about saying, Keaton Mitchell as the X Factor. Yeah. I really am. Because I'm not saying what I'm saying about their running back room because I think Derrick Henry's going to be on a snap count. I really like the guys behind him. I do. Yeah. I really like Justice Hill. And when Keaton Mitchell is healthy, he is such a good runner. It's just about consistency. And it's just about staying out there and being available. Even right now, he's hurt. If Keaton could stay healthy, him and A-Chain are in very similar boats for me. Very similar boats. Yeah, for some reason A-Chain gets all this hype and Keaton doesn't.
I think it's because A-Chain had 4-week stretch where he was the best running back in football.
Yeah, so. Fair. But you look at some of Keaton's plays. In terms of both of them were insanely efficient. It was just Keaton couldn't stay healthy for a full game. That's what it was. But both of them have limited volume, were very efficient runners, and both of them were rookies last year. There's the connections. But for whatever reason, Keaton doesn't get mentioned much, and I think that's because of his health. But if he could stay healthy, yeah. Is he my X Factor pick, though? No, because I really like someone I'm going to mention defensively.
Okay.
But now we're going to move over to that defense.
And for I think last time we will
Yeah.
be talking about Mike McDonald's defense,
Yeah.
and this will be our
Mm-hmm.
fifth time talking about it, fifth
Yep.
time talking about it.
This one I am confident will base out of a 2-4.
Yes, yes,
I'm
I
very
agree.
confident in that. They'll rotate into the 3-4 when against heavier personnel, but they're going to be in 2-4. Why 2-4? Because that's the ultimate. Show something and then don't do that something that you're showing defense, right?
Yeah,
Because you have two interior defensive linemen, uh, and then you have four linebackers that could either blitz or drop back. And you mix that up all the time, and then it becomes even more annoying when you start dropping 320-pound Travis Jones into the middle zone. So now even those two D linemen might be dropping back, and it's just like, what am I supposed to do, right? The amount of disguised coverages with these players, whether in the secondary or in the front, the disguised blitzes, the sim pressures, right? It's very possible that you see four down linemen, all four of them drop back, but they're still rushing four, and two of them are cornerbacks. Like, they will do some crazy, crazy stuff because that's what they like to do. It is so much, how do you not take advantage of this? But then you also watch it happen, and it's like, how could you expect that? you know?
yeah. How could you expect that to happen?
Yeah.
Now, I do think there's reason to believe, like, we don't know, like we tend to believe that Zach Orr is going to do fine,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know. How does losing the best defensive coordinator in football affect your defense and how they play? It reminds me a lot of, it gives me worry to immediately just say, yeah, Zach Orr is going to be fine, because I'm a Dolphins fan, and when Brian Flores left, we were like, okay, how about God, why am I picking on his name? I had this whole spiel made up for this. I'm the Dolphins defensive coordinator. It'll come to me again. But the Dolphins defensive
Zach
coordinator
Orr?
after
Oh,
no,
no, sorry, that's the Ravens. Oh,
yeah,
Anthony Weaver.
no. I'm talking about after Flores left. I don't know
Oh,
why I'm
after
blanking on
Vic Fangio?
No. There was a guy in between. Yes, there was a guy in between. 2022 Dolphins DC. I gotta look it up. I don't know why I'm blanking on me. I had this whole spiel made up for it. Josh Boyer. God, there it is. Josh Boyer. When Brian Flores left, we were like, well, Josh Boyer has been under him for 3 years now. He's running the same defense. We're gonna be fine, No, Josh Boyer was one of the worst defense coordinators in football. You have to be to run a defense like this. You got to be a good defensive mind. And I'm not saying Zach Orr isn't. I'm saying we don't know what the effect of losing the best defensive mind in the game.
And can he coach the guys up? Because the fact is, very similar to a Flores, when it's working, it's working. But there's a lot of room for error, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of room for error. You're already doing some risky stuff. But when you start having guys messing up, when you start having corners blitzing when they're not supposed to, that could go very poorly. Mm-hmm. It can. Mm-hmm. And you just have to do a good job communicating it. That's what McDonald was so good at. Will his disciples be as good? That is the question right now. I'm not going to doubt it because I don't have a reason to, but exactly. Am I expecting a McDonald type of performance? No. Right? It's going to be a 2-4 with disguised coverages and disguised blitzes and some really, really creative stuff constantly. I'm excited to see it. But now we get into this personnel. Again, I'm expecting a 2-4 base, maybe some 3-4. In terms of who those two defensive linemen will be, probably Michael Pierce and Justin Madubuike. Travis Jones rotating in.
You think Travis Jones rotating in over Michael Pierce?
Yeah, a little bit. But then here's the thing. They have so many. They have a deep D line, right?
Yeah.
Michael Pierce, Travis Jones, Brent Urban I like, Broderick Washington. Justin Madubuike is definitely going to be on the field. Like, as a starter, absolutely, he's a stud.
Absolutely.
And last year, their problem was their ability to get pressure when just using their front four. When they weren't blitzing, they really struggled. The question becomes, right, will that change this year? If it's going to change, it's going to be with Madubuike on the field. I'm confident in that. It's just that next spot. Is it going to be Jones? Is it going to be Michael Pierce? Is it going to be Urban? It definitely will be a rotation. Who do you think gets the bulk?
It's hard to imagine Travis Jones not getting his bulk heading into year 3. He showed him some really good things his first 2 years now.
Yeah.
And
But it was always as a rotational guy, and I don't know if he could do that all. But either way, he's rotating.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? Sure. Yeah, I'm willing to say Travis Jones is that next guy. Listen, I love Travis Jones. A big guy that can move like that. Oh, my Lord. Love it. Love it. It's just about getting the pass rush down.
I saw something you never expected. Travis Jones lined up in a wide nine way more times than you think he did last year.
Yeah.
Okay. It was one of the crazier things.
Yeah. Well, because he's an insane athlete. He's an insane athlete at his size. Michael Pierce is another big guy, a Patrick Sypher nose tackle, right? Just big guy, stuffs his gap, does a good job with that. And then Brent Urban, I think, is a really interesting name as a run defender. He's someone that I think gets, when he's on the edge, he seals the edge pretty well. And then when he's on the interior, he does a good job sealing his gap. Not a great pass rusher, like I said, but a very efficient run defender.
Right. And again, athletes seem to be the name of the game in this defense. They have a type, and it's athletes. And you really see that in their linebackers. Maybe not so much with Kyle Van Noy, who's the veteran guy, veteran presence on this team. Good rusher, edge defender. He can play, coverage. He's a good fit for this scheme.
Yes, he's a very nice hybrid.
Yes, hybrid linebacker is what I'm looking for. But then you have Adafe Owe, who's more of the pass rusher. And Owe is so interesting because, I don't even, as from a technicality standpoint, I still don't think he's all that great. He's just such a good athlete. A lot of the times it doesn't matter because of the scheme he's in and how they scheme him open with these exotic blitzes and the way they have their fronts.
Yeah, I completely agree there. And he's someone they might even bump on the interior. They have him stunt a lot, like you said. But then a name I want to mention, because I think this guy might be able to take Owe's spot, David Ojabo. I thought last year was going to be a big year for him. It was kind of I still have a lot of faith in Ojabo. This is year 2 off the injury, year 3 of his NFL career. I still liked what I saw out of Ojabo coming out of college, and I'm expecting him at some point to really break out. Could this be the year? Maybe.
And again, they made the most Ravens pick ever in the 3rd round, picking Adisa Isaac, who I wasn't a huge Adisa Isaac guy, but he's an athletic guy out of Penn State, and knowing the Ravens, he's going to turn into a pretty good player because that's just what they do with their outside linebackers.
And Isaac is a guy who could drop back.
Yep.
He can. He's another one of those hybrid edges, and because of his athleticism, he could do it really well. That edge room I like. I do like, as a bunch of guys that play that hybrid role, very effective. The inside linebackers, Roquan Smith, of course, we know how good he is, right?
Yes.
Great coverage guy. When it comes to engaging blocks, he isn't incredibly effective, but he's very good at maneuvering around them.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because people can't touch him.
Exactly, right? So he is really effective in that way, but he's there as a coverage guy more than anything. And then someone I really like here, and I'm glad that he's the starter. I thought he would have to fight a little bit to get the starting spot. Trenton Simpson. Really, really crazy effective blitzer. While also being just a freak athlete out there, man.
Guy's a freak. He's a freak force of nature out there as a linebacker, man.
And that's exactly it, right? And that's, you talked about it. That's like what you look for. Him going round 3, I still don't understand. He was
I'll say this
player in my mind.
I do think he has potential to be better than Patrick Queen was, and even this year. Because I don't think, for one, we already talked about it in the Steelers video. I don't think Patrick Queen was all that great. He was good. Don't get me wrong. He was good. I don't think he was some world beater linebacker. I think Trenton Simpson can beat that.
Yes, exactly. His ability as an athlete, going downhill or trying to execute a certain stunt. You could line him up on the edge. He has all this versatility, and having a linebacker like that, a chess piece in your defensive front, is really nice, and I know Orr will make the most of that.
And not only that, he's also not a traffic cone in coverage. You can do more with him than you can with Patrick Queen.
Exactly. And then Malik Harrison as depth, he's fine. He can get out there, defend the run pretty well. He has an all right feel for zone. I trust him a decent amount. But then we move over to the secondary. This is where things can get a little bit concerning.
I happen to completely agree. I got to ask you. I wasn't all that impressed with Marlon Humphrey last year. Were you?
He had a weaker season. He had a weaker season.
I definitely wasn't super impressed. In fact, I would argue Brandon Stevens had the better year across from him. So he's getting older. We'll see how that goes. But they did a good job replacing, in my opinion, or at least preparing to replace with Nate Wiggins. So
Yeah.
we'll start with a highlight of this secondary. One of the best defensive players in football. Maybe should have won DPOY last year. I mean, for being completely honest.
I think so. Because of what he was able to bring, to the table as a versatile chess piece, did everything, was such a crazy effective slot corner, was such a crazy effective high safety, was so good against screen passes, the run. He did everything at an insanely high level, and then the fact that he was someone that pretty much is single-handedly the reason that McDonald was able to run the defensive scheme that made this the best defense in football last year. To not give him Defensive Player of the Year, I think, is a crime. Okay?
Yeah, Kyle Hamilton is the ultimate chess piece. If Mike McDonald could trade 5 first-round picks for Kyle Hamilton right now, he would. If the organization allowed him, he'd be like, cool, give him to me. Like, Kyle Hamilton is that level of player, that level of freak athlete and individual. Not only what he does as an athlete, but in his head. He's so smart. He's such a smart, nuanced football player. He knows exactly what's coming before it comes. Screens, like you mentioned, blows him up immediately. And you're hoping, I have no doubt he's still going to be super effective. You're hoping that the new coach, Zach Orr, which I would lean to agree that he does, that he's able to use him as effectively and as creatively as McDonald did.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have Marcus Williams, who's a lot more exclusive to his role as like this high safety. But still, he's good at it. He's good at it. He's a good coverage guy.
And I want to mention, I wouldn't completely write off Eddie Jackson. If anybody's going to revive Eddie Jackson's career, it's going to be the Ravens, as they usually do. He's still a really good coverage guy, man, especially high safety.
The one thing that was really on display last year was how much being a veteran helps you in a McDonald defense. Right.
Yes.
The amount of veterans that came in, Ronald Darby, right, and looked fine as rotational pieces, it's crazy. I think Eddie Jackson will be just like that, playing the Marcus Williams role, of course, as this high safety.
But then we get to this corner room, and again, this is where it gets a little...
Yeah.
As we said, Marlon Humphrey had a weak season last year. And if that trend continues, this isn't really somebody you're comfortable having as a starting corner. If it continues to trend downward, I should say. But that's not to say they don't have other options. Again, Brandon Stevens had a good year last year at corner. He's his team's best corner by a good margin. And they went ahead and drafted Nate Davis. That is an offensive lineman. Nate Wiggins in the first round. Now, Nate Wiggins was my number one outside corner. Not my number one defensive back. Mine was Cooper DeJean, as both of ours were. But outside corner, Nate Wiggins was my number one outside corner. As a pure coverage guy, I thought he was fantastic in college.
I mean,
I'm
not going to deny that, because here's the good thing, right? You have a small receiver, right? The defense can actively try to press your guy. If you're a offense, you can't force this team to play press. Right? If you're bad in press coverage, okay, just don't make him run press coverage. Like, it's just that simple. They're not going to make him run press coverage. That isn't really a thing in the McDonald defense. It's a lot more soft zone coverage with some, like hybrid man, right? I liked Wiggins because, with receivers getting lighter and lighter, I think that kind of calls for corners to get lighter and lighter to kind of be able to keep up. I liked Wiggins. I didn't like him quite as much. And he already balled out in the preseason, right? We all know that. Again, advantage of recording this late is we get to know Nate Wiggins is a really good corner in the NFL too. I'm a fan of him. I question if he were to start, does he really start over Humphrey? Maybe. There's no way you put him in a slot. No way.
No. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, where does he start? It's really like, if he's right, this is them again, kind of drafting for the future. It's right now drafting for the future, and if Humphrey or Stevens get hurt, you've got a guy you're super comfortable with. And if one of them are just struggling, like Humphrey kind of did last year, Nate Wiggins can come in and do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
They
I
also
like it.
brought in Trayvon Mullen.
Did
Who?
they?
Yeah, that was an addition of theirs. That could help.
That
Another
could.
guy. They like to rotate players in. I could see it being a little bit more of a rotation. Instead of Marlon Humphrey, you're rotating Nate Wiggins in. And you're rotating Trayvon Mullen in, and maybe even Jalen Armour Davis, who I liked a lot coming out of Bama. He's someone I think can get out there and do some damage there too.
Now I do want to mention somebody. He's currently injured. TJ Tampa. I know you were a bit lower. You were lower on him than I was, but I liked Tampa. I like his upside more than anything. I don't think he's going to come in and do it immediately. But again, one of those guys, I just want to mention, you might hear TJ Tampa's name in 2 years because he gets on the field. And Ravens are just so good at developing players.
Yes.
He has the size, he has the length to be a damn good corner. So we'll see how that goes. But just wanted to mention it.
Yeah, and then their slot corner right now, do you think it's going to stay Arthur Millette? No reason to think otherwise, right?
Yeah, it probably just stays Arthur Millette. Again, keep in mind, Kyle Hamilton's going to get his reps at the slot corner as well, like a lot of them. But when he is not there, I'd imagine it's Arthur Millette, yeah.
And here's something, too, right? It's going to be a lot of, Arthur Millette is the slot corner, and then the play starts, and then he drops into the third, and Kyle Hamilton buzzes down, right? That happens. Again, that's what this defense is. And I think that's part of the reason that the corners not being anything too special doesn't really matter, because quarterbacks are just so rattled looking at the defense. And they get rattled long enough for the pass rush to get in their face, and then they start missing throws. And then all of a sudden you force the incompletion without the corners doing anything overly special, right? That's how this defense is. But, of course, the better the corners, the more reliably you could run this defense. So that for defensive superlatives, this is a really good one. Who do you have for Defensive Player of the Year?
It
is Kyle Hamilton.
It's Kyle
without
Hamilton.
a doubt.
Yeah.
I was looking. If you weren't to say Kyle Hamilton,
okay, let's take away the obvious pick, right?
Yeah.
I think I'd have to.
I think there's two players.
For me, I think I'm gonna have to go with Roquan Smith.
And then Madubuike is right there.
Yeah, Madubuike.
It's really, really tough. Madubuike he's big while he's also so capable of working moves and being speedy. And that, again, this hybrid skill set of his is so effective. But I would probably also go Roquan Smith. Defensive Rookie of the Year.
It's tough because I want to say Wiggins is he going to fill that much? And the other, I think there is another option. I think Adisa Isaac makes the field a decent bit, man.
Yeah.
Adisa Isaac can go into coverage. The way he plays is very much wanted in this defense. So it's hard to pick. I'm going to go with Wiggins because I do expect him to be on the field and play well, but Adisa Isaac's not a bad pick.
I might go Isaac just because I think he has more of a clear lane to playing time.
Right.
Yeah. So then my X Factor and my 12th man are on the side of the ball. What about you? You did your 12th man.
Yeah,
that was
I did my 12th man and
X
my X Factor.
Oh, yeah, it was Rashad Bateman. So, okay. So my...
I want to guess.
Okay, sure. Keep in mind, I'm basing 2-4.
2-4. My guess is your X Factor is Trenton Simpson.
Yup. There you go.
And your 12th man's David Ojabo.
Ooh, I was thinking of Jabo, but I'm not going to lie. Last year being a little bit uninspired. Not that it was bad, but it was kind of uninspired. I didn't go him.
Is it then one of the defensive linemen, whether it's Jones or Pierce?
I thought we said Urban. We said that Jones and Madubuike were going to be the starting two. I was thinking Urban as the 12th man.
Smart. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But then, maybe Nate Wiggins as the 12th man, right?
Hey.
Very possible. Adisa Isaac as the 12th, always possible. They're going to rotate a lot of guys.
Again, as it is with every single McDonald disciple, you could say 12th man is any of these guys.
Yeah, right. Exactly. When you run the 2-4, a lot of stuff could change on any given play. We move over to special teams, and we get to the best kicker in the sport. Except, Brandon Aubrey's crazy now. But historically, the best kicker that's in the league right now. Justin Tucker. Spectacular. And so clutch, too. So clutch. Last year, I do want to say this. the last 2 years he has been lacking a little bit.
I agree.
But still, you need a kick in the clutch. He makes it every time, without fail. Then at punter, I feel like people kind of underrate Jordan Stout. Jordan Stout was a stout punter. All right, he did a good job.
The Ravens just continually have a good special teams and good special teams unit because Harbaugh's background as a special teams coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
They had I forget the punter's name. I don't know why, but the punter before Jordan Stout was the best punter in the league for years. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, but they continually find these good punters and good kickers. Well, just Tucker's been here a while, but you get my point.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, why get rid of Tucker? Because he's been doing it damn well. And it's not like he said anything controversial at a college speech either.
No.
But apparently that got you extended now. So
apparently.
All right. But Deontay Hardy, Tylan Wallace, Zay Flowers, Keaton Mitchell, Tez Walker. They have a lot of guys that could return. They have a lot of guys that could return. If you were to pick out of those, Zay Flowers probably doesn't because they're number one wide receiver. Keaton Mitchell, do you risk going out there? I guess.
I don't think so. I think I really do think this team's you're made of glass, dude. You're not playing special teams.
Yeah, that's fair. And they have so many other options. Even Malik Cunningham,
he could be used for those throwbacks, yeah.
Yeah, Cunningham has to be one of the two.
Yeah.
Cunningham has to be. Who do you think the other one is?
I think Deontay Hardy is probably the returner, but I think Justice Hill could do it a lot of it too. I think
Justice Hill, absolutely Justice Hill. Tez Walker?
I don't know. I've never seen him in a return. I see him as a vertical threat. I didn't love him after the catch in college, so I don't know.
Okay, then maybe we rock with Hardy and
or Justice Hill. But yeah, Malik Cunningham's going to be out there at some point throwing passes.
Or you could even, like we said, the 10th man versatility thing is really cool and interesting. Put Ricard out there as a lead blocker. Ricard's got to be out there. Will he be a lead blocker? Will he be on the setup zone? I don't know. Maybe they mix it up, do a little bit of both. Malik Harrison, I think, could be a contributor. Listen, the Ravens, they do their special teams. They do it well, man. I don't think that they have a Matthew Slater type of standout special team guy, but they consistently get it done on special teams. So, yeah, there we go. We move to predictions now. This is one I have a lot of variance between their floor and their ceiling because Lamar has the injury history.
Yeah.
What do you have their floor as?
My floor is 8 and 9.
I have 7 and 10.
Cool. Yeah, that's just about there. It's just along the fact of, gosh, my browser just did something weird. Anyway, it's more along the fact of, there's a lot of unknown here. There is a lot of unknown. Are the young players going to step up and play well? And the biggest unknown to me is, is this defense going to be near the same without the best defensive mind in the sport? And I think that's a very valid worry to have because I've seen it happen to my own team where you lose your best defensive mind in the sport and you have their backup come in. And
I don't think anyone's expected to be the same. I just think that it's a question of how much of a drop-off will there be.
Exactly. That's the question. And I think there's enough of a drop-off for it to be there's enough variance in there being enough of a drop-off to being oh, this defense is struggling a little bit. I don't think there's a chance it's bad. I do think there's a chance that this team struggles because the communication isn't there.
Yeah, absolutely. I have the ceiling as 14-3, though. Let's say that Ord does a good job with the defense. Let's say Trenton Simpson balls out. Let's say Andrew Voorhees is one of the best guards in football. Which is all very possible stuff. Very possible, everything that I just said. Lamar Jackson stays healthy. 14-3, I think, is very real.
I think 14. I think that's fine to have. Mine was 13-4, so we'll go with yours.
Okay. So you had a higher floor but a lower ceiling. I had a lower floor but a higher ceiling. Both by 1 win. What was your prediction?
10-7.
Yeah, same for me. 10-7.
Now it's kind of weird because this team, unfortunately, in the way these playoffs worked out, ended up as the 8th seed and barely missed the playoffs for me.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this. You have been a lot more precise in terms of where you think each team is going to be at which part of the season. I've kind of just been predicting the games, and that's really good.
Of course, which is totally fine.
Yeah,
because I kind of mix it in with I'm doing
You're doing like
what's
your
it called?
season
It's like
predictions, and you mix it in with that.
season predictions
Yeah.
and team previews on TikTok. So I have it up, so I might as well talk about it, right?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna reassess mine before I do my predictions, but
It's an interest because I was doing that before, and then I started my preview, and I was just like, yeah, this is shaping up to be a pretty interesting playoff picture.
yeah. So let's get into it. Week 1 is gonna be a hell of a game. Start of the season, first game, first football game. Oh yeah, there we go. Lamar versus Mahomes. I think it's gonna be just like last year. Chiefs lose first game. First game of the year.
So? You
Yeah,
think so?
I
Okay.
think so. I think so. Just first off, because it happened last year, so we know like they're prone to it. Second off, I think Harbaugh knows the importance of beating the Chiefs. Week 1. I really do.
So here comes week 2, Raiders Ravens. I think this Raiders team is like uniquely suited to,
Yeah,
to beat this
I
Ravens team.
I get it.
I think this team's gonna this Raiders defense is gonna be unbelievable against the run. I kind of have no doubt about that. This team is gonna be unbelievable against the run. And then on offense, we'll see how that goes. But they have the receivers to take advantage, and if Minshew and or O'Connell can just play mistake-free football, which is hard to do. But
I also think the run game I think could get going here, man.
Yes.
Like I think the Ravens' run defense is good. This is where I think the loss of Patrick Queen can really affect them. I do. I know that Patrick Queen wasn't a stud, but he was really good against the run. Losing him's a big deal. This is where Trenton Simpson is going to have to show up in this game.
Yeah.
This is going to be a big one for him.
But I am going to lean. I just want to say I am going to lean the Raiders here.
Yeah, I agree.
I
agree.
Uniquely suited to beat them.
Yeah. Then at Dallas.
I think this is. I'll be honest with you. I think Ravens come in here and whoop their ass.
Yeah,
think
I can see that. I absolutely can. Listen, the Cowboys aren't on prime time, so
this could be one of those games where Derrick Henry is 200 yards. Like I genuinely think
if he gets the bulk. I think that this is a game where Derrick Henry plays the first quarter, then they're like, okay, we'll put him on ice.
Yeah, right? We're already up by 21 points.
Yeah. Listen, Dallas isn't Washington. However, I don't see much about Dallas that matches up well here. Like maybe Parsons has a big day, maybe. But even that, I don't know, right? Like, who's stopping the QB run here? Who's stopping that run game, right? There's a lot of stuff you got to be able to stop that I don't think they're going to be able to.
Right.
And then they're going to try and blitz him. Blitzing Lamar doesn't work, right? It doesn't. So I think that's a really bad matchup for Dallas. But then Buffalo, primetime football, Sunday night. This is tough.
This is tough. It's tough, but I think it feels like these are the games that Lamar Jackson goes out and wins. These primetime games against big teams, like especially during the regular season, these are the games that this Ravens team go out and wins, right?
Yeah.
But matchup-wise, again, it's tough. I think it works in the Ravens' favor. I think this is going to be much more of a defensive battle than an offensive battle in my eyes. I think this is both a game where it's really going to be which quarterback makes the most mistakes. Is Josh Allen? Which Josh Allen are we going to get, right? So I am going to lean the Ravens at home on primetime, but it's a tough game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about what Josh Allen might be able to do against this defense, but I also think some of the schematic, shifts and the disguises might get to him too. So I'm leaning the Ravens. Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati matches up pretty damn well against them.
I'll tell you this right now. I have them splitting against every team in the NFC North because that's how the NFC North goes.
That is how the NFC North goes. That's fair. If one team were to win both, though, I'm going Cincy.
I would too.
Washington.
I think this might be Jane. Depending on how this defense is, if this defense is good, this might be Jane Daniels' worst game of the season. Yeah. This team matches up so well into the.
And it's also like, just what does Washington have to work with here?
Right. Absolutely.
Then Tampa Bay, they're going to try and blitz Lamar. That doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So I feel okay saying the Ravens here.
Yep.
Get to the Browns. Again, I think they're going to split as they do with everybody.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about the matchup, right? Cleveland's running game can get going here.
It can. But I also imagine if this defense is any good, Deshaun Watson, I can't imagine having any success against it.
But yeah, yeah. They gotta bench Deshaun, man. I'm sorry. I know this is the Ravens episode, but like I just look at it and it's just like how many times have we had that exact like memo? Whenever we talk about Cleveland, it always is, oh yeah, they could rely on the running game, but eventually they have to throw the ball. And who's playing quarterback? And that's like, okay, I guess I'll take the other team.
My king DTR, you will play at some point this season.
At some point, yeah. The best thing that could have happened to them was Joe Flacco coming in. So then Denver. Does Denver have anything that really makes this a fair matchup for them? No, right?
Not really. I think the main issue is I just don't see Denver's defense stopping Derrick Henry or the run game or anybody that's running. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not much to really work with for Denver. Cincinnati, once again, primetime. I still think Cincinnati matches up.
This should be one of the best games of the season. Primetime NFC North matchup in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a fun game as long as both teams are healthy.
Yeah, yeah. And
we might just get Josh Johnson against.
Now do we start questioning what if Josh Johnson is playing?
I think we do that week 13.
Okay.
I think that's kind of where it's like,
sure.
Is Josh Johnson playing?
Pittsburgh has the Ravens' number. Ever since Lamar came in. They have. They do. At home, I think Pittsburgh wins. I truly do. Then the Chargers, one-dimensional rushing attack. I think this is going to be a game where they go into that 3-4, where you're able to get Brent Urban out there on pretty much every down. I feel good about Baltimore.
I feel very good about Baltimore here. Not only that, I don't know how they stop this run game. They do not have the personnel to stop the run.
Yeah, you're completely right. Then Philly, this is gonna be a good game. This is gonna be a really good game. Oh boy. Do I go Philly?
I think I lean Philly.
I think I do too. And I'm thinking mainly like the Fangio defense. I think the Fangio defense would go pretty well against this. Also, the young secondary is really getting accustomed to the league at this point. Yeah, I'm going Philly. I agree.
This is Cooper DeJean, Defensive Player of the Year, the stamp of approval game.
Cooper DeJean versus Kyle Hamilton. So then bye week, and now we start the Josh Johnson question. Against the Giants, can the Ravens win with Josh Johnson?
Yes. I think they can win with just Josh Johnson.
Daniel Jones versus this scheme is... I think we said this exact thing
We've talked about it before, yeah.
We have. It is Coughing Baby versus Hydrogen Bomb. Without a doubt.
And not only that, they're coming off a bye regardless. It's just, I trust this Ravens team off a bye.
Pittsburgh again. Now, if the Ravens are starting Josh Johnson, I have a feeling some tomfoolery is going to occur, and the Ravens are going to win this game.
That's just how the NFC North goes. It's just
that is how the AFC North goes. 100%.
Yeah, AFC North.
Yeah.
But yeah. Then we go to Ravens at Texans. I think this Texans team is pretty uniquely suited to beat this Ravens team. So I feel pretty good. So even if Lamar was playing.
Let's not forget what happened last time the Ravens played on Christmas, though, against a really good team.
True.
Could be like that.
Could
be like that. But what if Josh Johnson's playing? Then that's when the Ravens lose. However, if Lamar is playing here, this could be game of the year. This could be a big Lamar day.
Yes, it could. But this could equally be a big C.J. Stroud day into this defense where he's just unfazed by pressure.
Yeah, like he does. Like he do. And then Cleveland again, who, again, have Deshaun Watson. So yes. I think we know where that game goes. Anyway, we're going to end it there. I mean, listen, Cleveland's pass rush can get to Lamar, but Lamar is unfazed by the pressure. So how much does it really matter? Well, I will say this. Cleveland's secondary, that could cause some problems.
It could.
It could be a really low-scoring game.
I think they're going to, again, I think the Ravens split with every single team in the AFC North. So that's just how it's going to go.
There we go. So that is all for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. If you want more of my content, check it out down below. Subscribe, leave a like if you enjoyed. And if you want to see the next episode, look in the description. We have Dean's channel linked there. He's been posting the odd numbers I've been
Even numbers.
even numbers. Sorry, I can do math. Don't you worry. He's been posting the even numbers. I've been posting the odds. The last episode that just went up was a Green Bay Packers episode on his channel. I definitely recommend checking that out. And next video will also be on his channel. So, like I said, subscribe. And yeah, see you next time. Hope you enjoy your day.